If you are a parent whose child is entering senior high school at the start of the 2018-2019 academic year, we've assembled all the aspects here to help break down the new system coming into effect in September. President Akufo-Addo expects the system to improve the quality of education in the country. Now, with an expected 31% increase in student population to senior high schools this academic year, government has been pushed to introduce the new system to accommodate the huge numbers anticipated. In the studio today, we'll hear from a representative of the Education Ministry. He's going to give us a breakdown of the new system and how it will affect you, or perhaps your children. We'll also hear from the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, as well as parents, students and teachers. Angel Carbonu is the NAGWAT's president. He's been speaking to us on JoyNews today about how he believes that teachers or teacher welfare has not been properly factored into the system.
We as an association are going to have a National Executive Council meeting for an in-depth professional and technical discussion of this system. And after that meeting, which is a wider consultation of practitioners in education in this country, the association will come out with a communique which will be the official position of the association.
Have you been consulted by the ministry when this policy was being formulated?
Well, when you use the word consult, that is to say whether we were part of the formulation. We have been informed by the minister that this is the program that is going to be rolled out. Like almost every Ghanaian have been informed, we have also been informed. The feasibility of it, the challenges, the workability, and all that is what we said. We will have to subject it to wider representative discussion and come up with our position officially.
But your initial thoughts on it as a teacher, Angel Carbonu, you think that this is an idea that can work, changing our entire education system?
Well, the system operates like this from what I have read. That is, a group of students who go to school for 4 months, and then when they complete their 4 months, they'll come home, and another group of students will go to school for another 4 months, and those who completed first will be staying home for 4 months. In other words, they'll be rotating the 4 months till they all finish school and go on to further their education. That is the system as I understand it.
Well, it's 40 days, so it's a day system rather than a number of months, but that's the general idea.
40 what?
It's 40 days in and 40 days out. It's more like a number of days than months.
You have not gotten the right information.
Well, Dr. Duchum is on the other line. We can just clarify that with him.
It is not 40 days. 40 days is just 1 month, 10 days. Are you saying the students are going to be in 1 month, 10 days?
It's 40 classroom days. It's not 40.
No.
What I'm saying is that you know, Mr. Carbon is fine. I don't want to go back and forth there. Dr. Duchum is on the other line. Let's just go and have that quick clarification before we continue with the conversation. Instructional days.
Hello?
Yes.
40 instructional days cannot be 2 months. 40 instructional days cannot be 2 months, please.
How many months will that make?
Look, when we talk about instructional days, we are talking about the hours of instruction that a student gets within a day. School starts at 8 o'clock and closes at 1:30. And then you calculate it in terms of instructional hours and multiply the instructional hours to make it the number of hours that make a day.
Well, according to, Mr. Carbonu, according to the working documents for this one, the school day is being adjusted so that it will be from 7:30.
You cannot adjust the school days without my input, because that has effect on me as a worker, and it has, the one about my working condition. Are you increasing my working hours without my input? Is that what you are saying?
Well, from the documents I have seen, and we'll have confirmation from Dr. Duchum in a moment, working hours, the class day is being adjusted from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and some are suggesting 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
And you see, look, please, I don't really want to get into those aspects now, but you expect me to prepare and come and teach these students. Will I still have to do work teaching notes and prepare to come and teach? when you increase my instructional hours, is that what you are talking about? Or I don't have to prepare anymore because the preparation that I do to prepare my lesson notes is part of my work.
So are you suggesting that you may have a difficulty with this new system because of preparation?
That is what I'm saying, that my National Executive Council, the document is come to us. We will discuss this document and issue an official position on the document.
Okay, let me take some of those concerns back to Dr. Duchum on the other hand.
No, I have not raised any concern, right? I'm just reacting to the statement that you have just made, that there are some, you see, people should not just sit somewhere and be saying that, oh, the instructional hours can change from 7:30 to 3 o'clock. Please, it is not.
Angel Carbono is president of NAGRA there, speaking to Daniel Dazi earlier on JoyNews today. So let's get to know a bit more about this policy, and we want to find out exactly how does government intend for it to work. Kojo Youngson has joined me in the studio right now, and he's going to help us break it down. Kojo, it's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
By the way, we already know the fundamentals. We understand the basics. Now we know people will go to school, some will be on vacation, and while some are on vacation, some will go back to school. But explain to us in details how government expects this system to work.
Well, government presents this new arrangement in a rather straightforward way. What they are saying is that the term system is now officially scrapped. The system where we go to school 3 terms doesn't exist anymore. We will now go for 2 semesters.
Hold on, could you just interrupt briefly? Has it already taken effect, or this is something they plan to do?
Well, the new term begins. They are on vacation now. So when the new term begins, there will be a semester system in play. Okay. I believe for the final years, they may still finish out on a term system, but for the second and first years, the new semester system
according to government.
According to government. Now, this begins in September, and all of this is the outcome of a meeting with CHAS not so long ago, where the ministry met with them and basically made these arrangements for a double-track system. Now, as you said, we understand what the double-track system is, but what caused government to opt for this system? Well, they crunched the numbers. They realized that this year alone they would have 472,000 new entrants, whilst they only have 289,000 available spaces, which means that, well, naturally they have a deficit of about 181,993 seats that they need to fill for this intake alone. They also need 8,000 new teachers. Now, in addition to that, in order to place these 181,993 students, they would have had to build schools, they would have had to set up furniture and equipment and logistics and so forth, to the tune of about 1.3 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. So they figured, instead of doing that, why don't they introduce this double track system, which would then allow them to avoid the cost of building new schools and logistics, so that essentially we would end up with an easier to manage figure of 323,000 Ghana cedis.
Okay, hold on, Kojo. I have to interrupt you briefly, as rude as it may be. Forgive me. We need to get on the phone lines now and speak to Professor Jeffus Anamwa Mensah, who of course is a respected educationist. When we finish talking to him, Kojo will take us through those figures that you were seeing and what they actually mean. Sir, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Good. Thank you very much.
Right. We understand that you've just stepped out of a meeting. Would you tell us who this meeting was with?
No, the meeting is at a detail. We're looking at the colleges of education, the new curriculum for colleges of education, and support to colleges of education.
So what is the outcome of this meeting, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Well, we started with the process of developing a curriculum based upon national teachers and upon a curriculum framework, which we have developed and gone to accreditation for accreditation of the curriculum for the colleges of education. And we completed that accreditation. We are to get the full report of that accreditation. But we're confident that the curriculum is a world-class curriculum, and therefore we'll receive accreditation.
Okay.
So that the college
Obviously has nothing to do with this new system that government intends to roll out. But you have been a consultant to government on this particular policy, correct?
Well, yes, I have, been in discussion with them on some of the issues that relate to the free SHS, the fact that we have a shortfall, and therefore.
So you can help us understand how this works. I wanted to find out from you, sir, one of the issues that we seem to be having at the moment is the involvement of teachers, who obviously are going to be the ones teaching these students and having to do a different teaching hour system. To what extent? To what extent do you think that this has been broken down properly? That teachers have been made to understand exactly what is going to happen? Should we go ahead with it in September?
I think that some effort has been made to contact, to engage teachers on this issue, because it requires a rearrangement of the school calendar, in such a way that, we can have two, a double enrollment, within the 1 year, of the program. So I think that a lot of, I heard that there was even a meeting at Accra Girls High School, and so some efforts have been made in that direction. So how far, we have gone, but I think it's important, that there are commitment to this, because a lot more teachers will be engaged.
As in new teachers will be recruited?
Yes, because each track will have its own teachers, so that you don't bend the teachers. Don't make them too tight to, engage intellectually with their students. So you must have a new crop of teachers who will be handling each track, so that they can give up their best to the students.
So you won't have a teacher teaching for a particular, as you're calling it now, semester, who will have to then teach the next semester, and we also
the semester will be first semester, second semester, third semester. That's for the year will be covered by a set of teachers, and then because within the same let's say next year we are admitting the students. If we are admitting the students and we break them into two groups because of the numbers, so you have 1,000 students, you are now adding 500 to it. So you have 750, in one group and another group. So that each of these groups will have teachers who will have to teach them. And you cannot use the same teachers who will teach year-round, and teach two groups at the same time. So you need some supplementary teachers to support the process. So teachers will have to be engaged in this. And because it is a rearrangement of the calendar, it affords the opportunity for us to maximize the use, have a creative use of this opportunity that's been given to us, so that, the quality that we offer, will be good enough for our students to pass their exams.
Right. May I ask you this? Is this a permanent solution, or are we looking at reversing it at some point?
Wherever this has been used, it's a stopgap measure, because at the moment, if you want to put up facilities, buildings, and improve the internal facilities that we also need, in the building. It's not going to take 3 months, 4 months, or in 1 year. You need, a certain space of time. And from research and from what has been done elsewhere, you find that you need about 5 years, to 7 years to get all the facilities and so on, put together.
Okay, so I take it this is a stopgap measure that's going to be in existence for the next 7 years?
No, well, it depends upon the resources, how we have been able to mobilize the resources. No.
Okay.
If you have to put up, another 100 schools, I'm sure you cannot put them up within 2 years.
Okay. 3
years, So you need time to do that, So whilst you are engaging people in this, track system, you also start, putting up the building and getting all the facilities that are needed, to enable you to roll it back if need be.
Very well.
But I must say that in many places, this has been going on and on and on
right.
and on.
Right. We see that in the document that the minister presented. But quickly, sir, at what point did government consult you, or at what point did you become aware of this arrangement?
I think this has been in discussion for some time. I mean, all concerned Ghanaians have been, worried about how do we handle, the number of students who every year increases, and then the facilities almost especially the same. We are able to increase it by just a few number of school blocks. So the question is, if I have a child and my child is in junior secondary school, we are start for the DEC.
How do they move on into a system that is already choked? I get that, but I was trying to find out. I was trying to find out from you how long this has been in discussion, as you say. If you say some time, exactly what time?
Oh, what? Say it again. That's the question again.
How long ago did you know about this arrangement?
That the government was going to implement this arrangement?
Yes, please. A lot of people have actually said that we've known about this problem from day one when we started to roll out the free SHS program, by the way.
Yes. It's evident. So this has been, something that we've been talking about. Okay. Why don't you create another process that enables you to have a multi-track system, a double track system, and so on and so forth.
So really, my question was, I wanted to find out about the timing, because it appears that it's a bit too late, because we're expecting students to go back to school in September. Next week ends this month, which means we go right into August next week. We're looking at the time. Now, teachers don't seem to be very educated on this project. Now, they are the ones that are going to, in fact, teachers are key for this policy to be successful. Those key members of this policy don't seem very educated about it, but we have less than, about 2 months roughly to go. Isn't it too short a time to roll this policy out and make it effective?
Okay. Yeah, no, probably, well, one can look at it and say that it's too short a time. We need probably about 4 months, 5 months to engage teachers and other stakeholders, in this. But at some point in time, you ask yourself, yes, it's late, but what happens to the kids who are getting out of the junior high school and not getting access to junior high school education? Do we put them in the street? So at some point in time, there's going to be some sacrifice on the part of all of us. That you're looking at this situation. That's why saying that if I have a child and you cannot get into junior high school, because we don't have any space, and there's no other arrangement for the child to have. So we are wasting the chance, potential.
Okay, well, Prof, I'll let you go, but before that, I just want to put this in that one of the things, one of the ways to get people to sacrifice, like you're saying, is to get them to buy in. Now, if they don't buy into a particular policy, it's difficult for them to sacrifice, which is what a lot of Ghanaians believe that the Education Ministry and those who put together this program should have done in the first place. But Prof, I won't take so much of your time. We'll say a very big thanks to you. We'll say a very big thanks to you this afternoon for your time here on the show.
Thank you very much.
Professor Jefozana Mwamensa is an educationist, a part of those people who are putting together this project. Kojo, let's take off from where you left off.
Indeed. Now, if we get those figures back up on the screen, I'll be able to talk you through the basic numbers that have brought about this policy. But one thing is quite clear, that this double-track system is going ahead from September, with or without the consultation that many groups have been calling for. So, at the moment, the expectation is that for this cohort going into SHS, the new entrants are about 472,000. Now, these 472,000 people are coming to compete over only 289,000 available spaces, which means we have a deficit of 183,000 students, nowhere to place them. And of course, we're also going to need 8,000 new teachers. So this does create an emergency situation, which the ministry obviously had to resolve. And that is what has brought about this suggestion of the double-track system. It's not the first, we're not the first country to implement it. It's happened in Kenya, in Japan, Costa Rica, Germany, Australia, and in the United States. There are several schools that are still running this system. So it's tried and tested. It's not something that they pulled out of a hat, but indeed people feel like they haven't been involved in the decision making. I wish Prof. Anna Mwamensa had told us how early he had been involved in this planning, because to me it's a mathematics problem, a problem that they should have thought about from the very beginning of the implementation of free SHS, knowing the numbers in, who are going to write BECE. They should have been able to anticipate that there would be a need for this problem to be solved before September 2018. But now we are told that even if they were to choose one of the many options, well, I think they considered four options.
Okay.
They considered 4 different options on how to deal with this particular problem. But we are told that even if they were to pick any of those options that crossed their desk, and I want to go through them, they thought of appealing to development partners for support, partial securitization of the GET fund receivables for infrastructure development, capping GET fund at 25%, and of course the double-track school calendar. Even if they were to have picked any of those other options, they would have had to build schools to accommodate these extra students, and there was no time for that. So the double-track system is quite literally the best option available at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, but by the way, just quickly, they have a rollout plan of how to do this, which starts with...
Oh, I'll have you go through the rollout plan. Right now, let's go to the Accra High School, where Nancy Emefa Jadosi has been talking to students, and we've also been talking to parents. We'll hear from them, but let's get to the Accra Senior High School first.
Quiet, serene, and peaceful is the characteristics I can give to the compound here. I'm standing at the Accra High Senior High School. It is a day and a boarding house. Now, what you feel is the absence of students, because obviously we know that they're on vacation and they'll be coming back in September. When I walked into the Accra High Senior High School, the first thing that struck me was a notice that says vacation classes registration. That was to say that these students were expected back to campus to do some little academic work to keep them busy throughout the holidays. But very soon, as we do know, government will be rolling out the double tracking system. Now, what this means is that there's going to be a shift to running system where other students, the first round of students, will start their academic calendar, and whilst they vacate, the second batch will also come through, and we understand this is going to be 80 days. That's about 2.5 months for the first batch, and right after they vacate, the second batch will also come in and continue this. Now, I have been speaking to the headmaster for Accra High Senior High School, and he tells me that he's supposed to enroll 700 students. come September. Now, I asked him about the double tracking system, and he says the only thing he knows for himself is that he's supposed to enroll 700. And as to whether government is going to divide the school into 350 for the first batch and 350 for the second batch, he cannot really tell. He actually told me in privacy that he actually met some heads of the various schools in the Greater Accra region with the minister, who announced to them, the minister just announced to them of their intention to roll out this double tracking system. But they do not know, they don't have documents, they do not know what it actually entails. And so they'll be having other meetings to go back and, deliberate on the matter to find out exactly how it's going to be rolled out. Now, he actually outlined some advantages and disadvantages of this particular policy. Now, he tells me that there's going to be few students that teachers would be managing. He feels that that is good, that students will have time more with their teachers. The contact hours with teachers will be more. But he also noted that social amenities, for instance, some of their infrastructure, because holidays are supposed to be a relaxing moment for even the buildings. Not only the human beings are supposed to be relaxing, but the building, the infrastructure, their amenities, all of that is supposed to be relaxing. But with a system that is going to be rolled out, what it means is that there's going to be constant usage of these particular facilities. So from their buildings to their libraries to their laboratory, every day there's going to be, activities going on. He also mentioned that it's going to be stress on some teachers, it's going to be costly. And so most of these people, according to the headmaster, he said he has spoken to some of his members who say they are all waiting for the policy document on exactly what the double tracking system is. But what he tells me is that averagely, every term is about 3 months. And so when you put the three terms together is going to be about 9 months. But this semester system that is going to be rolled out is going to see 2.5 months for the first and another 2.5 months for the second. So that's going to be about 5 months. He thinks that even now they are unable to complete the syllabus. And so it will be very difficult for them as teachers to be able to manage their time and squeeze everything and squeeze all the syllabus within that time period. And so he thinks that there are pros and cons, but then he thinks that government should come back again and tell them how it's going to be. In fact, when I stepped in here, I saw earlier in the morning there were some students who had come here to come and register for classes. But what this means is that the next time government rolls out this policy, that is not going to be the case. It is going to be one academic year, one semester for them. You go home, you can do your learning in the house, you can do your rest in the house, and then come back. So that is what actually has been transpiring here at the Accra High Senior High School.
Nancy Emefa Jadosi there at the school, and you'd understand why you don't see, or you don't get to see the headmaster speaking to her. They hardly speak unless they have some sort of permission, which has to go through a long process. By the way, on this matter, especially when they don't understand and they have to still make their voices heard, you're likely not to have them speaking on record. Let's finish up with Kojo, because after that I have with me Kofi Asare. He's with the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, and they've actually led a research that looked into the quality issues at the secondary school level. So I'll be talking to him. Kojo, let's look at the enrollment plan, and then I get to Kofi.
Yes, indeed. The report we've cited from government has an enrollment plan which starts with stakeholder consultation. Then there will be development of a media strategy, training of headmasters and staff. Then they will develop school schedules, and finally disseminate school calendars. Now, we have between now and September to operationalize this thing. So I wonder where they are along this path. I certainly don't think they've trained headmasters and staff yet, because the headmasters we've tried to speak to don't seem to have the detail. Angel Carbonu, who is with NAGRAT, doesn't seem to have the detail either. So I wonder where they are in that process. I just want to finally mention that at this point, since government appears bent on implementing this from September, the real question that faces all stakeholders, if they do get brought into the conversation, is what are the pluses and the downsides? Okay, the pluses are quite easy to spot. Yes, obviously this will mean that they can put everybody through in a year. It will also mean that the contact hours increase. At the moment, school starts at 8, finishes at 2. Under the new system, it will start at 7:30 and finish at 3:30, which means that you actually get to spend more contact hours in total with the students, even though you are spending a shorter part of the year in school with them. Maintenance will be a downside, a popular one, because obviously we don't have a good maintenance culture. You heard about the buildings needing to rest. Really, the buildings just need to be maintained. And we already don't do it well. Now that the school will not even have breathing space to do that work. I wonder what will happen to the state of the facilities. And I think finally we can talk about the fact that there will be some cost attached to it, but nothing as high as the cost of building new schools before September. Right.
Interesting analysis and breakdown there by Kojo Yankson there. So you do have an idea now from all that Kojo has said, what the program entails, what to look out for, what will be the ups and the downsides. He's taking us through all of that. Kojo, thank you so much.
You're ever so
for
welcome.
That. Right. Now, let's get on to speak with Kofi Asare. Kofi Asare, by the way, we will be talking as well to the former Education Minister, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, to find out what their thoughts are on this particular matter and talking about the minorities' thoughts on this. But, Kofi, let me come to you. You guys have done some research into this. What has been your initial reaction to this whole idea of having to run a rotation or sort of double intake system?
Well, our research, which is going to be published within the week, actually looked at the quality deficits in the senior high school system.
Okay.
We went into 60 schools nationwide across classes, class 1, class 2, class 3 schools, or grade 1, grade 3 schools. And then we also had a balance between rural and urban, and then also mixed single-sex schools. Now, what we found out was that first, there was excessive overcrowding.
Okay.
So it runs in, it's in consonance with what the ministry said, that overcrowding is one of the reasons why it is adopting the multi approach. Apart from that, we also identified key quality deficits, especially in the area of the supply of textbooks and exercise books.
Okay.
Exercise books and notebooks. Apart from the schools in Accra, it was difficult to find schools in the regions, apart from Greater Accra, that had the full complement of 9 exercise books and 4 notebooks. In schools, we went to, like in the central region, at the Mori Community Senior High School, for instance, students received 2 exercise books and 1 notebook. You go to even at the Saddle, students received 9 and then 2 notebooks. In the Ashanti region, we couldn't find any school that received the full complement of exercise books and notebooks. So there are issues with the ingredients required to deliver quality teaching and learning in class. Okay. Now we had arrived in Accra with this news that it is important for us to begin to monitor not only the production and the award of contracts to those companies that supply books to the schools, but also let's monitor to ensure that the children receive what we have told their parents that government is paying for.
So based on your research, how would you react to this new policy that government wants to roll out? Do you think that it is a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing, and why?
This policy, as admitted by even government's key consultant on it, Professor Anamamensa, it's an ad hoc policy. It's a knee-jerk reaction to a situation that everybody foresaw. Everybody foresaw that it would be difficult to finance the free senior high school along the lines of our 70% boarding and 30% day system. It is very expensive.
Right.
And so it is a contingency measure. It's not a permanent solution. It's an ad hoc thing.
And as far as you're concerned, that's a good one?
No. I mentioned earlier on, anytime I'm asked about my opinion on this policy, I say that it is like drowning an ocean. Okay, if you are drowning an ocean and then you find a pirate ready to rescue you, you have no option. Because if you drown, you become supper for the sharks. And then if the pirates rescue you too, you are likely to be sold or killed. We don't have any option.
We don't have any option.
We don't have any option because government is saying that there is no money to finance the expansion of classrooms and dormitories. That is simply the reason why we are here. Okay. So if there is no money, then you don't have any option.
Okay, so with the option that's available, how do you go about the option in such a way that it is extremely effective? Because at this point, we can't take any chances. Speaking of making it effective, teachers don't seem to be aware. They don't seem to have a full grasp of what this program is all about and how it is going to be rolled out.
The conception and the planning of this policy has been shrouded in secrecy. We, the Education Coalition, we also serve on the Ministerial Advisory Board.
But you never heard of it?
No. So don't expect a teacher in the classroom to hear of it.
I mean, at least if you are not, I mean, if you as a coalition of people who are interested in education are not necessarily involved maybe we can just let it go. But teachers, they are going to be teaching them. So if they're not involved and they don't understand
the teachers have a rep on that body, on that advisory body.
And he's also not aware?
That's the point I'm making, that stakeholders were not broadly consulted for a reason. But I don't see why this approach should be so. In every policy management, you are likely to encounter challenges. If for any reason at all, government has encountered a big challenge, which is a financing issue, government shouldn't be shy to come out and say that, look, we are having challenges raising funds for the Fisherman High School, because it was expected. Okay, so don't shy away from consulting stakeholders. Let's see the best way to resolve the issue. If I was asked that how do we approach this, I would have probably given a different recommendation.
Okay.
Why?
What would be
because,
your recommendation?
for instance, let's take 2 districts, one rural district and one urban district, Madina, Lankwantanai. If every student in Madina area, Lankwantanai, okay, if every junior high school student there will have to attend a secondary school in the district, you find at least 1 or 2 secondary schools, including Presec.
Okay.
Listen, the number of students that will go to secondary school in Lankwantanai will not be more than 2,000.
Okay.
But you have at least 2 schools in the district that can take up to 4,000, even at boarding. So if you make it day, it means that all the dormitories are going to be available for classrooms. A school like Presec can easily take 4,000 because there will be no dormitories. But then you have to live in Lankwantanai to attend Presec. In the same way, if you live in Chufupraso, you have to live around Chufupraso to attend Chufupraso Secondary School or Hemai, 2 senior high schools in the district. In the rural areas, you find that some communities are very, very distant from the center. I agree. Those are the students that you are going to make them boarders. You understand? So that it shouldn't be possible for someone to live in Accra and then attend Laboni Secondary School and the person is
be a boarder.
It doesn't
So that would have been your recommendation.
Exactly.
Now it looks like we've actually moved on. Government may not necessarily be taking in any new recommendations now. It looks like they've got this. They want to roll it out because they're saying that if we don't do this, we have thousands of students who will not be able to go to school this year. So the
governments never listen to advice. They've never taken recommendations. But let me come to that point. Yes. The issue of decongestion.
Now, going forward, that's actually where I wanted to bring you.
Yeah.
Going forward, it looks like really this is going to be rolled out. Teachers don't seem to be aware. We don't know what is going to happen to vacation classes, which usually happens when school is on vacation.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the same teachers teaching, so we don't know what's going to happen with that. We have an enrollment plan. We don't know if they are within time. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on these 3 points.
My thoughts are on the quality issues.
Okay.
If the semester system works without exercise books being available in adequate quantities, okay, we will be having quantity education. You give a student 9 exercise books, 1 for each subject. An exercise book has 40 pages. It can only do 13 assignments in a year. 1 page, 2 pages for an assignment, and then 1 page for correction. And then you give a student 1 exercise book for a whole academic year, 13 assignments. Meanwhile, the teacher is supposed to do an assignment after every lesson.
Okay.
Each student should get at least 3 exercise books for a subject. If you declare free senior high school education, and you tell the parents that, parents, I am providing what their children need in school, so don't pay anything. You need to provide what they really need. They don't need 1 exercise book for maths for 1 year. No. Teachers will be given assignments once a month to be able to utilize the 13 assignments that they can, that the one assignment can accommodate. Okay. So the quality ingredients have been at the back burner. Government is always talking quantity.
So if I get you right, you're saying that if they roll out this system, they don't just have to deal with teacher education, letting the teachers understand exactly what this is about, but there's also an issue of books, provision of textbooks, and exercise. And
not only that, but also making sure that, apart from making sure that they have adequate exercise books and notebooks, also making sure that the teachers teach using the required pedagogy, okay, so that they don't rush. You see, one of the key problems we found out was that in a school, we realized that a quarter of the class, sometimes in a school, a quarter of the class caught between 30 and 45. That quarter, they struggle to speak English. And a teacher is teaching 1 class which has A students a quarter, and then B students a quarter, and then there's the last quarter of the class. The challenge is how to teach this class and move all these students along. So the teachers are torn between taking their time to teach in such a manner that those with the lowest IQ in the class will take time to move their class.
up.
If they move fast, they will not. They will leave that quarter behind. If they move slow, they may not finish the syllabus.
Okay.
These are the issues in the classroom. So if you shorten the period, then you're actually not focusing at all on the quality issues, but the quantity issues. And that is the issue that we want to hammer on.
All right. Let me take your very final word on this. Going forward, what are your expectations as a coalition of education NGOs? Briefly for me.
We think that there is the report that we have submitted to government should be looked at. The quality issues must be dealt with. The change to two-semester issue only resolves the issue of cost. It is cheaper. And then for that matter, it also it reduces to an extent the congestion. Okay. There is no assurance of quality in the 4 factors that government took into consideration. There was no quality mentioned there. Okay. And so government should not renege on its commitment to improve the quality of secondary education. The quantity is not enough. The quality is most important.
Quality is the thing. So you can't just be putting, I mean, yes, you're giving a lot more students the opportunity to study, but what are they going to study? That is the point that Kofi Asare is making. Kofi Asare, by the way, is with the Ghana National Education Campaign. It's a coalition of education NGOs. Kofi, thank you so much for coming.